If you've ever wanted an insight on how it is that exactly we do our jobs as car reviewers, it follows, well, sometimes a predictable pattern. Car gets launched, sticks around for about 3 to 5 years, then gets sent off to Vicky Bello for an all-new look, and then it's rinse and repeat. But just like plastic surgery, there are tiers, levels, packages that you could go for, which can bring you to something very simple all the way to something that's absolutely life-changing. But just like plastic surgery, you can go from something really nice to something that's absolutely botched. Sort of like a good balance. So with that in mind, where exactly do you think we put Kia's 2024 Seltos at? But before any procedure, a consultation first with the AutoDeal app, which, by the way, is not just available on Android, it's also available for iOS. That's right, we recently just launched it. It will tell you that the 2024 Kia Seltos is, 1,688,000 Philippine pesos. Now, there's probably a few of you out there that will say, what? That's too expensive. No. And others will just say, yeah, that's about right. Regardless of what it is that you have to say, please leave a comment below because we want to read your thoughts. And by the way, so do the manufacturers. Allow us to take you around the exterior of this SX Turbo DCT and show you just how life-changing this facelift has been for the Kia Seltos. And perhaps we can, I don't know, take off the layers from this tiger nose lift. I'm on a roll. Puns aside, this tiger nose grille is all new for the 2024 model, and we do mean all new. Jack and I first saw this model at the launch and we were floored. I even got mom spaghetti all over my nice and white shirt because I was flabbergasted at how much it had changed. LEDs all around from the DRLs to the fog lamps, and all of that surrounds an updated grille. Told ya, tiger nose lift, and all the better for it. I wouldn't say that the previous Seltos was pango by any means, but you know how your mom thinks that you're pogi or pretty because ang tangos ng ilong mo, anak? Something like that. Earl's mom, not mine. Continuing down the side, you get a good amount of ground clearance at 190 millimeters, which is about par with the rest of the segment, and up 20 millimeters from the pre-facelift. You also get 17-inch alloy wheels, which are pretty with that two-tone finish wrapped in 55 series tires. And also, can we take a second, no, make that a minute, to admire the paint, the color on this car?
That's it?
Huh?
That's all you have to say?
Sorry, I was having a moment. Now, if you think the front was hubba bubba, the rear is baby's got back. Now, I know I've used that line before, but look at it. So it's not just the front that got a massive change. The rear also got an augmentation here. This whole assembly stretches from end to end and it looks absolutely fantastic lit up. It's really just what the doctor ordered in our opinion. You'll definitely have to pony up if you want to get yourself this top of the line variant up against the lower end models. But there is good reason for that and I'll get to it. Just bear with me. There are 433 liters of very usable space at the rear, 2 balikbayan boxes without the tonneau, no problems whatsoever. Of course, fold the rear seats and you can fit in a maximum of 4. That's pretty awesome. But what I love about this car is that this facelift is not just a simple facelift where they slapped a couple of bumpers on and called it a day. No, it's more than that. It's definitely more than skin deep. That I'd like to show you. Then when you get inside, it's like, it's a whole new world. You know how when you're eating in a 7-Eleven in Korea, it's just so much better than eating in a 7-Eleven in the Philippines? It's still a 7-Eleven, but it's just so much nicer. The seats are so much nicer. The panels on the door are even better. And in the previous pre-facelift one, you didn't get any toys back here, like almost none. Here, you've got air vents here in the center. You've got a Type-C charging point. You've got a center armrest with bottle holders that can hold regular-sized bottles. Oh, thank you for your regular-sized bottle, Earl. You've got bottle holders on the door as well. Plus, you get a share of the panoramic sunroof. Check that out. Look at that. Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. Now, the space is still the same in terms of legroom and headroom. So yeah, like I said, it's still a 7-Eleven, but it just looks so much nicer. I ain't gonna lie to you, the very first time I sat inside this car during our walk around, I said it then and I'll say it again now. This is a facelift because woohoo, it is quite a departure from the previous model. Because, I mean, look at the dash, it's gorgeous. Look at the infotainment system, well integrated. Wireless charger, heck yeah. Cruise control, adaptive cruise, yeah. Buttons for your air right here, cubby holes on either side. There is just so much. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of piano black. I'm gonna try to look past that and get back into the car, okay? So first, the dash. Very nice. It is plastic, yes, durable, easier to clean, but the shape of it is just more driver-centric because it kind of dips down and it allows me for a great view of the road. Then you've got your infotainment system. Both these screens are 10.25 inches. Very, very clear. Doesn't have a reverse camera, unfortunately. Oh, sorry. It doesn't have a 360 camera, but it does have a reverse camera, which is pretty clear. However, on top of that, if you're lacking out on that, at least it has wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. So this car is thinking about me and Earl, not just Jack, if you know what I mean. It's very, very clear, very well integrated. It's bent a little bit. Beneath that, you have your buttons, physical buttons for your air controls, easy to get to. A physical button also for your audio to make it louder and softer. Louder or softer. It's volume, Carlo. Just say volume. The volume control, very easy to get to. You've got drive modes in this thing. Oh, and in a car of this size and this price, cool seats. Cool seats in a car for under 1.7 million Philippine pesos. Come on, man. Let's go, dude. You've got also cruise control, which is adaptive cruise. No paddles on this car, but like I mentioned already, you do have drive modes in this car, which you can go from sport to normal to even smart. Now, there are also a lot of bottle holders inside the front because you've got two here. You've got a cubby hole here. This, by the way, closes. Then you've got cubby holes, or rather bottle holders on either side of the door, which is very, very nice. There is sort of like, I'd say, a callback to the previous model, because here in the center where the wireless charging is, you do have a 12-volt socket, but the USB to connect to the wireless stuff is still Type A, whereas here in the back it's Type C. Here also in the center it's Type C. But to connect your system, connect your phone to the system, it's still a Type A. Now, I'm not sure if that will bode well for like Earl's generation. Obviously, my generation is not a problem because I still use the old cords for my phone, but you, Earl, are you happy that it's a Type A or would you rather it was a Type C?
Type C!
Okay, don't have to shout, man. Calm down.
I love Type C!
Okay. There are also changes to how this car drives on the road. A lot of changes, but I'm not going to just tell you that. I'm just going to show you, which is going to be a heck of a lot more fun. But before we do head on out, do please consider subscribing to our channel because as you probably already know, we create all of these videos just for you guys.
You're on fire! That was one take!
Aray. Now, for those of you that remember the old Seltos, it had a 2-liter. In this new one, it's a much smaller engine at 1.4, but it has a turbo. So this is a 1.4-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine that produces 138 horses and 242 Newton meters of torque. Mated this time around to a 7-speed DCT, whereas before it was an IVT. So being mated to a DCT, you'd expect better fuel economy, and it does, a little still more. Because inside the city, we were able to do roughly about 10 kilometers per liter. On the highway, better at 16. And then a mixed figure was giving us 13, or rather a mixed driving was giving us 13. Now, the traffic one, or the one in the city rather, will depend obviously on what kind of traffic that you have inside the city. But better is still better nonetheless. Also, compared to the previous model, this car obviously has less horsepower, but because it has a turbo, it's got more torque. In general, the car is actually quite okay to drive. The DCT is not all that fantabulous. There have been executions of the DCT much better than this one, but it's not to a point where it's annoyingly bad. No, not at all. There's a lot of pull from the engine, and it comes in quite low. So when you're in traffic or when you're at the stop, when you floor it, the pull is quite good, especially when you're on sport mode. The one thing I wanted to add to that is that still being a 1.4 liter engine, you'd expect it to run out of breath when you're traveling at the speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, and overtaking might be an issue. No, not at all. Peg your foot even when you're driving on normal mode or eco mode, because it activates it itself, it changes its gears to understand that you're overtaking. So when you do need to overtake at faster than the speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, yeah, it doesn't have any issues at all. Speaking again of the transmission, the DCT, it's, like I said, it's pretty okay to drive. Kia's done a good job to make it manageable. There are some times in traffic where there's a bit of a lull, a bit of an annoyance that you may not be used to, especially if you're coming from a traditional automatic transmission. It's just something that is akin to a 7-speed DCT or a DCT at that. But it's not something that is too much of a burden on you, especially on your right foot when you gotta switch back from your accelerator to your brake pedal. Like in traffic, there are some DCTs that slowly lurch forward, and then as it picks up a bit of speed, there's sort of like a hump immediately to it that you have to sometimes, every once in a while, catch yourself. Here, I'm not gonna lie and tell you that it doesn't exist, but it is managed quite well. I would like to return to the DCT for one moment. The one thing that Kia did keep inside the Seltos, and we're glad that they did, is the fun factor to drive this car. It really is quite a lot of fun to drive this car. And for its size, it's also quite nimble, especially around corners. But again, that's just us driving. Comfort is another of its strong points. The seats are comfortable, the cabin noise is kept down to a minimum. Even driving at faster highway speeds, yes, quiet in here, sane. Basically the opposite of Earl.
Hey, wait.
It's true.
Yeah, you're right.
And really, when it comes to comfort, there's no way that you can deny a car, again, of this size, and I'm mentioning it again, with cool seats. It is the middle of summer. There is a panoramic roof above me, but yet because of the cool seats, I'm cool?
Ice cold, baby.
Ice cold. What's cooler than being cool, Earl?
Ice cold, baby.
Baduy natin. Now, I do not want to perpetuate any stereotypes or anything, but when it comes to facelifts, the Koreans know a thing or two about it. And it looks like they really brought out the big guns when it comes to this Seltos, because it just looks absolutely great, in and out. The only qualm that we may have is its price, because admittedly, it is a bit pricey, but for everything else, I think it works out just fine. And to answer our question earlier, it's not exactly absolutely fantabulous, this facelift, but I'll tell you what, it's probably most definitely life-changing for the Seltos.